Hi, my name is Marcie. Welcome to Holtorf Medical Group. Today we have a special guest, Christopher Brandlin, mold attorney, Dr. Christopher Brandlin, Esquire. How you doing today, Christopher?
I'm doing always amazing. Just got back into town from Tampa at the Hack Your Health, and I'm glad I get to see you guys because not only do you keep my clients on their feet, you keep me on my feet too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what brought you to Holtorf Medical Group? Because you've been a patient of Holtorf Medical Group for quite some time.
Yeah.
Prior to diving into mold and then becoming Holtorf Medical Group's mold attorney.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So I actually got more intrigued with like functional, regenerative, alternative medicine like in 2017, and it was actually after just regretful experience with conventional medicine. And this is why I have to distinguish like conventional medicine from functional or alternative or regenerative medicine too. But I had even though I was a fitness athlete and all natural bodybuilder, like during law school, after I was practicing law, I had a bad experience with conventional medicine where they put me on a load of pharmaceuticals when I just felt a little bit ill. And it actually was Lyme disease and co-infections was part of it, but they never treated the root cause. They just tried to treat the symptoms, and they treated the symptoms the improper way. They just fed me pharmaceuticals for 14 months straight, which completely incinerated my intestines. And it got so bad to like 2017, they had to cut open my intestines to remove a piece because it got so inflamed. And I even woke up during the intestinal surgery. I actually woke up, I guess they didn't give me enough anesthesia, so I woke up as they're cutting up my intestines.
My goodness.
And so what actually happened is they drugged me up, and then I started having complications every couple of weeks. 3 weeks later, I developed a humongous infection, like the size of a grapefruit, like right where they cut open, right below my belly button. And they had to come back. I had to go back into the ER, and no anesthesia. They just had to inject some lidocaine and then cut me right open, and I watched the whole thing.
Oh my goodness.
So I built a good pain. And then 3 weeks later, same thing. So I finally kind of was recognizing that conventional medicine was leading the wrong direction. So later on that year, I was trying to manage it. I was doing an elimination diet, and then sometimes I was doing short fast. And I was like, you know what? But I think something's seriously wrong with me systemically, like head to toe. And I asked the doctor, I was like, it's not just my gut. It's like everything. It's like, knees, joints, and like, muscle aches, chronic fatigue. And he's like, you know what? You're probably just having more complications, and I think we just have to remove the rest of your intestines. They just removed 6 inches, and I was like, no effing way. So what I actually ended up doing is I actually ended up doing a 10-day water fast, and because I was like, I have to save the rest of my intestines. I'm never going to let them cut me open again. They made my life worse. And I refed on only meat. And that's where it kind of started, like a wake-up call is like, diet and functional medicine. So I actually became a carnivore that year because I looked into the carnivore diet, and I actually flew over to Budapest, Hungary, and treated with the Paleo Medicina Clinic. But when I came back, I noticed that whenever I got exposed to like environmental toxins, I was still getting sick. So that's why I tell a lot of people in the carnivore community is that, sometimes a meat-based diet is not going to cure all of your problems, especially if you're exposed to mold. And there's a huge amount of carnivores that are actually still dealing with a lot of mold illness. So I think it was like Michaela Peterson. She was actually one of the first people I spoke with before she became popular. She called me on her cell phone. Now she's all over like social media. So what I started learning too is I started looking into ozone therapy, and that's how I got introduced. And actually, my father's friend from law school. His friend from law school was your guy's attorney, and that's how we got connected, and that's how I met Dr. Holtorf. I think it was like late 2017 or early 2018, and that's where I started treating like ozone in conjunction with carnivore diet, and this is where I started feeling even better. And this has been from like bedridden for like a year, right? And all the getting my intestines cut open and just the worst depression. I started getting back on my feet. I started training, and I mean, I was probably in the best shape during law school, and I won the bodybuilding contest in 2010. But I started I started feeling stronger. I had more energy. I was like, you know what? I think we're addressing something a lot more like in depth. So I started doing a lot more ozone therapy, and then I combined it with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I started using medical grade because they're both oxygen-based therapies. But the ozone therapy, the reason why I like that is what I learned, even from the hyperbaric oxygen like technicians and some of the experts that give their seminars on hyperbaric, they're like, like hyperbaric does have antimicrobial activities, but they also recommend, they said, if you do ozone therapy, as well, it's a perfect combination because the third molecule of ozone, our third atom of O3. That's what has the antimicrobial, antiviral, antifungal properties. And not just that, the ozone itself is a really strong anti-inflammatory, because a lot of people, when they're really sick, not only do they have these infections, but they're just really inflamed. And then I started learning some of the other modalities you guys have. I mean, you guys have plaque X, you have phosphatidylcholine that you can actually do through an IV. I never even knew you could do it through an IV. I just knew a lot of people take it orally just to kind of bind some of the toxins in your body. And then and when I actually, even though I was getting better, I think it was about 3 years ago, I actually got really sick from mold. And this is from feeling amazing for 2018, 19, all the way into 2022. All of a sudden, I started getting really sick. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? And I actually wasn't doing much ozone therapy at the time. I kind of just laid off. But I realized that I was getting exposed to a lot of mold in LA County, because LA County, the humidity is the highest, it's almost as bad as swamplands in Louisiana. It's because what I learned is that even when I did depositions of these mold experts, is that mold grows in very humid environments. So mold grows it can technically grow at anything above 50% humidity. And then in LA County, and then even when I go to certain parts of Florida, when I travel the globe, I realize that all these places are really humid. And that's why I sometimes feel better staying out in the desert, Palm Desert or Las Vegas, where I'm mainly at right now. It's because it's so dry, but you still have to you still have to address the mold in your system. And that's where you started looking into it, and then I started getting better. I think I lost even though I was feeling amazing, when I got sick from mold, I lost 30 pounds. I was the carnivore diet wasn't fixing it. Yeah. I was like, no, it's the mold. I was like, guys, it doesn't matter. The diet you need to do something in conjunction with the diet. So I actually did a crap load of ozone therapy, and then you guys just started doing EBU, and that was even better, because EBU is even more powerful. And then I started doing the plaque X and everything else, and I got back on my feet. And it actually helped me finish my PhD, and because I got a PhD in public policy and crosses over with public health. Actually, it's mainly with the College of Public Health, actually. And then, my movement was, I want to run for Congress, because I think, America's healthcare system is leading to the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
Most of the doctors right now, they have very little education in nutrition and alternative medicine. And 95% of their curriculum is pharmacology and surgeries. Really. So they're all, basically these pharmaceutical companies are funding all these medical institutions who are teaching our future doctors. And instead of doing natural health, they're just giving you a bunch of pills. And I always say that if you go to a doctor and you tell him that you have problems, and he reaches for the prescription pad immediately and just prescribes you medication without asking about your diet or your lifestyle, you don't have a doctor. You have a drug dealer. And we need more functional doctors. And that's why I'm so appreciative of you. And then I started so I started looking into mold, and I started doing mold litigation, because, in almost all 50 states, a landlord, or even an HOA, has the obligation to provide, habitable premises. HOAs for common areas and all that, if they have mold in the hallways and different, but the landlords too. And then I realized that so many people, especially in LA County, were getting sick from mold, but they were telling me they were never getting any better. And I asked them, what'd you do for treatment? Oh, I just went to my primary care physician, and he sent me to another person, but none of them know how to treat mold. So they gave me a bunch of antibiotics, which made me worse. I'm like, that's the problem. Yeah. Because there's very few mold literate doctors, and there's a database, and you guys are at the top of the database too, with I think it's Lyme literate medical doctors and mold literate LMD. But so what I started encouraging them, I personally got better, but you're not going to get better if you go to your primary care physician, because none of them, you need to see a mold literate doctor. And some of the best is all the doctors at Holtorf Medical Group here in in El Segundo. So I started recommending that, and then I realized that a lot of my I wasn't even surprised. I knew they're going to get better as long as they stayed consistent, and all my clients were getting better. But then I was like, let me get some medical records. Let's submit demand, and we're getting all these these clients basically compensated. Not only for the actual expenses for the mold treatment, you get general damages, you get pain and suffering, but you also get all the rent that you paid during the time in which the property was deemed uninhabitable to get reimbursed. You just paid rent for a whole year like for a moldy place. We're gonna get that all back in your pocket. And this is why I became, more known as the mold attorney, which I may also trademark as well.
Yeah, yes, you were my mold attorney.
Yes, I was. I'm glad we got that resolved too. And then, I'm more important. I'm glad you're in a better place too.
Yes.
You're in a much happier, a very habitable premises, free of mold.
Yes,
right?
free of mold. I've had EBOO treatments myself, so that really helped me. I know there's many different things, but I know I saw very good results after I did the EBOO, like the day of. Because I couldn't even get out of bed. I had to crawl around on the floor. I was so sick.
I remember some of your witness depositions saying the same thing.
Yeah, I was so sick. Holy moly. And I didn't even realize it was mold, actually. I truly thought that I had some kind of cancer or I was dying. I was convinced.
Yeah, because actually after the surgeries that I had, I actually developed like skin ulcerations, and they said it was actually like they classified it as a type of cancer that you have to keep in remission because it keeps getting ulcerations. I started getting the ulcerations again. I'm like, this is after like I did like the ozone and hyperbaric and carnivore, and I haven't seen them in like 6 years. When I got sick from mold, like it was like 5 years later. Now, all of a sudden, these ulcerations came back. I'm like, oh my God, my skin cancer is coming back. I started freaking out.
Right.
So people don't realize mold can really damage. And, it actually could, and based on the clinical studies I'm seeing, it actually could cause like an organ failure. And people don't realize. And your liver is your most important. And that's why I think it's also kind of cool that you guys actually do glutathione like in conjunction with the ozone, because the ozone is going to be basically killing everything in your system, but also it's the glutathione is going to help flush the liver.
Right.
And people have such, the liver is the most important detox organ of your body. And when people kind of like neglect their liver, especially with like, a lot of alcohol intake, and I have my vice, I have a little tequila that's my one vice on the carnivore diet. I don't eat any carbs or sugar, but like every 3 weeks, I'll have a couple shots of tequila with my steak or something like that. But yeah, people don't realize that they need to nourish and protect their liver. And this is why I'm very glad that I was out. Actually, I just got one of the best settlements for a family of 5 who was living in Inglewood, and it was a really good settlement. And it was actually from a friend that I knew him from the gym for like 10 years ago, but him and his family were bedridden, and you guys treated them, and they moved into a better place, and they kept doing treatment. Not only did we get a really good settlement right before the holidays, because Christmas is coming up, so so he can get gifts for his family, because he was talking about like filing for bankruptcy. Yeah, so but because he was struggling because inflation's high.
Hardly work.
But his wife and his kids are just thriving now, so they feel a lot better. So that's why I think it's really important for a lot of people who are suffering from mold. First of all, you have a claim. Okay, the rule is if you basically address a concern to your landlord, they have to make a reasonable attempt in a reasonable time to address the concern. If you say, I'm feeling sick, I suspect some mold. If they do not do a mold inspection immediately within like 1 or 2 weeks, and they just keep brushing you off for months, I think the same thing happened with you, basically they breach the habitability of, the warranty of habitability is what we call in litigation. So there is an implied warranty of habitability that every landlord must keep to basically maintain habitable premises for every tenant during the term of the lease term, and at any time, and even the lease states this too, that if the tenant suspects mold, and they're actually the California, because I'm a real estate broker as well, the updated forms with the California Association of Real Estate, it actually has a mold addendum that they put as part of the lease, that the tenant has an obligation to address any concerns about mold to the landlord, and the landlord has to reasonably respond. But a lot of times, throughout the nation, a lot of landlords are not responding, and it, you know what? Not only is it just kind of lazy, and no one likes this slumlord, you're allowing your tenants to get sick, and you got to address it. And so there's a lot of different factors that come into play too.
So yeah, my place addressed it. They came and cleaned it with bleach.
Yeah,
and
which is like the worst thing.
Worst thing you can do. And I never knew that growing up. That's what my mom did.
Yeah, it was
the bathroom.
It was the traditional way, just because it's just like it's a natural antibacterial, but it's antibacterial. It's not basically, it's going to help spread. And not just that, it's the fumes that people, this is why people, when you have, chronic inflammatory response, is that like SIRS basically, you become hypersensitive to like everything around it, your histamines go through the roof. So you realize that you cannot, like, even as a carnivore, like if I get exposed to mold, and I still get exposed to mold when I'm traveling, like I remember I did like a property inspection, and it was like, it's like a sewage over there. I was like, oh my God, I'm breathing. I'm like, getting sick
right away.
So yeah, I realized that I can't even have like a carnivore. I can't have an aged steak, and aged steak is kind of good. It's tender, and it gives more flavor. I'm like, but aged steaks and like other it's like fish like has higher histamines. I realized that when I'm exposed to mold, my histamine sensitivity, like mast cell activation syndrome, is like through the roof. I can't tolerate anything.
Yeah,
and the chemicals are the worst thing, and that's why people need to realize that not only is the bleach going to make it worse, but the chemical, the smell from the bleach is going to really just irritate you.
Oh, I was very messed up after that. My whole body had a rash all over it. I couldn't breathe. Yeah, it was awful. It was awful. Mold is no joke.
Yeah.
It is no joke. That definitely can kill you. I mean, really.
Yes. Yeah, because when you think of it, like your body just starts shutting down.
Yeah.
And your immune system is so important, especially in today's world, because, I mean, we're behind closed doors all day. We don't get any sunlight. And then and this is why I decided to run for Congress, not only because, like, actually the vaccine mandate is what made me run for Congress. Like, I decided to get my PhD. I'm like, no, we're in the wrong direction. And I actually told people, I was like, hey, there's studies in Italy and Spain, clinical studies, showing that COVID was actually managed and cured by ozone therapy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And people, but you know what? I was on LinkedIn for 14 years as an attorney before I started getting on all these major, like, because I just got on all this major social media in like the last year when I made my announcement to run for Congress on Fox News.
I love it.
I was on LinkedIn, but every time I posted something, like when they were talking about like, how do you like vaccines, or like what's the cure rate, what's the efficacy rate? I'm like, I started posting these studies like ozone therapy can treat COVID. You guys know that? People do the ivermectin, the horse dewormer, which also is a good like adjunct, or a hydrochloroquine, whatever. But ozone therapy, there's like studies. They did it in like Spain and Italy. Basically, they were treating their patients with ozone therapy. Guys, it is minimally invasive. There's no drawbacks. It's only going to make you feel better, and it's a natural anti-inflammatory to also oxygenate your body. You guys should be doing this rather than putting some dangerous, vaccine that's promoted by soy boobs Billy Gates, who has no medical degree whatsoever. He has no degree whatsoever. He's only known for generating computer viruses. That's what he's known for. So people should have woken up. But a lot of people are so easily manipulated. And this is why I needed to run for Congress, because we need to change America's healthcare. I think health is so important. So, all my opponents, they're all different kind of areas. One's in real estate, and this other one's like, he's the wealthiest, and he's in the video game industry. I'm like, you've been 40 years in video game. I don't care what kind of money you have. What the hell is that going to help you? How is that going to give you advantage to address like America as a whole with all of our widespread problems? Okay. Right. And one of the biggest problems we're having is health. Okay. And we're seeing a decline. We're seeing cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease actually increased, like quadrupled, ever since they started reducing fat intake and reducing meat intake. And then we've seen that babies used to have like, 1 or 2 or 3 vaccines like in the 70s and 80s. Now they get like 40. So I think these like dangerous pharmaceuticals, and this is why I started looking into, oh, by the way, peptide therapy is something that also you guys offer. And that was amazing. When I started like learning about BPC 157, thymosin alpha 1, KPV, LL37, which is like another antifungal, antibacterial. I was like, this is like this combination of regenerative medicine. And theyese peptides, they're just combinations of amino acids that's really kind of highly studied. There's no drawbacks. So it's amazing that, I wish so many more people can go to functional health.
Me too.
But the problem is, the FDA, I mean, even though if I met Bobby Kennedy in January, he still doesn't have the full control. I mean, because the pharmaceutical industry funds over 2/3 of Congress. And as a Republican, I even bash people from my own party. I'm like, they're funding mostly Democrats, and most of the Democrats are getting the most money from the pharmaceutical companies. That's kind of obvious, but it's a few Republicans are getting a large amounts. I'm like, this is control. I was like, we need, it would be amazing if your health insurance paid for your ozone therapy at Holtorf Medical Clinic.
Come on.
You know what? I don't want to say it's futile. It may happen, but we need to get more voices heard at higher levels.
I agree. The more voices, the louder we will be, right? And how could you not listen when it's so loud?
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is that when money talks in politics and everything else too, is that the pharmaceutical industry is the wealthiest industry in the world, right? And when they have this control, they, at congressional hearings are basically, bribing a lot of these different congressmen around the globe. And this is why I don't plan on making a lot of friends when I get into Congress, is because, when they make something, a recommendation, like due to different healthcare concerns, we're actually recommending, vaccines and quadruple boosters for the American public. The American public, they're so easily manipulated because they really think that these people are getting better when it's completely the opposite. And if they really looked into it, or just looked outside the box, and this is why I have so much respect for regenerative doctors, especially Dr. Holtorf, is that, they went through the curriculum, they learned all this, but you know what? They decided to look outside the box and see they wanted to get their patients better. And this is why I like a lot of the carnivore doctors too, is that they learned that, we learned 12 hours of nutrition in our entire medical school curriculum. Why is it so little? I mean, why does a personal trainer know more about nutrition than the average doctor? Right. Average doctor does not know SHIT about nutrition. But I really respect the functional doctors, especially the guys over here at Holtorf, is that they really look out and they keep studying. You're still learning the benefits of peptides and how about a combination and how to address. And what I like about it is that when a lot of my clients that I send over here, they come back to me and each one of them has a different protocol. It's really narrowly tailored to their type of symptoms. And sometimes it's even what type of mycotoxins they have too, because, got to check in the urinalysis, real-time labs to see which mycotoxins that you're going to really be addressing. Right. So, and I that's why I really, not only am I promoting the carnivore, I'm not expecting everybody to be a carnivore. I just want people to eat real food, just one ingredient. And we should not demonize meat and fat, okay? And actually, animal-based fat is actually truly healing. And ever since we reduced the fat, it started going down. But I really want to promote regenerative medicine. Yes. I mean, that's one part of this new generation, this technology, that I think we have actually a really big opportunity to make America healthy again. Agreed. It's, let's clean up the diet. No more lab-grown BS meat, all right? Let's eat real meat. Let's support our American farmers. I do have a protocol to make meat affordable again, and I actually discussed it with some of the farmers because I was in Tampa this weekend. Oh, okay. I do have to give you a good compliment, by the way, too. I did the EBU last week, as you remember, right before I flew out to Tampa. And I did it Tuesday. I felt amazing in Tampa this weekend. And actually, they're expecting, I was the only attorney and political candidate and thousands of people in the whole convention. And I had my own booth. And they had a vibra plate, it's a very unstable, shaky base, a vibration plate. Yeah. It shakes so hard that people can't even stand on it. It's so unstable. I was able to do a headstand on it and hold it for a long period of time. And the vibra plate folks were so impressed that they gave me something 75% off. They're we're going to send you one sent to your door. Love it. Yeah. So I had to be a good mascot for you guys here. Yes, you sure did. Wow. But that is the truth. That EBU is amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. We plan on doing a EBU raffle coming up here soon because we want people to be able to get EBU. Yeah. And I think that's what I realized is that, because I remember I went to Europe. I was I'm going to do some ozone therapy in Europe while I'm over here. And I stayed at it was Cyprus, that country that's, it's 80% Greek and 20% Turk. It's right. So they have all these kind of regenerative clinics over there. It's hard for a lot of people to get, but I just wanted to take an interesting vacation. They did a lot of 10 passes, but then they didn't do the EBU back then. And then when I learned the EBU, I'm dude, the EBU is 3 times more powerful than a 10 pass. And it's got a filtration system. It's going to basically filter all the inflammatory proteins and crap out of your body too. Yes. And I think it's got UV light too. Yes, yeah, it's got UV light. It's got a combination of everything. So it dumps toxins. It pulls it out. You can actually see the toxins being cleaned. Yes. Yes. When I had the mold, I did an EBU and overflowed the toxin bed. My first EBU session, it's getting cleaner now. I saw that. Yeah, but the first EBU session, it was foamy and dirty as crap. I was oh my God, you guys pulled that out of me? Yeah. So people don't realize, I mean, that's pulling out of your blood system. It's filtering your blood. So when people realize they have all that crap in their blood system, no wonder you feel like crap. Right. And you don't even have to have mold. I mean, everyone has Epstein-Barr infections, exactly. Correct. And we don't even realize that because no one talks about that. We're riddled with infections, cytomegalo, EBV, right? I mean, CMV, we're just riddled with infections. And so you don't really have to even
feel like you're on your deathbed to utilize the EBU.
Yeah, and my blood flow felt amazing this morning because I
Right.
was walking around the conference going up and down. And this is someone that right after the gut surgeries, I didn't tell you, but I also had a hip surgery. So I was going up and down and like, cause the circulation, this is just a little tense right now. When I don't like move, especially on a plane, but like my
Right.
blood circulation after the EBU felt amazing. I got off the plane and I even brought my dog and I was like walking around the city.
Yeah.
So people need to realize that, especially if they got like jabbed, right? Because they got the
Right.
coagulation of
Yes,
the vaccines. And that's
absolutely.
the most common thing is that people need to realize that they need to have good blood flow. And what's the best thing about ozone, especially EBU, is that you're oxygenating the blood. And you're cleaning it out. So
Yes.
I really, so as part of my, my campaign, I'm really focusing on health because I think health is it's a bipartisan topic. Okay, when you think of all like immigration, like you can see it so far, right? We're favoring like anti-immigration, like put up the border. But when it comes to health, that's a bipartisan topic where it's going to require both of the political parties to come together, collaborate, and and come up with the best plan to address the America public health issue because your focus is the people, not yourself. And I really wish more congressmen actually thought like this because most of them are just focusing on who's basically paying their back pocket. So that's why I'm also, my thing is oxygen and meat and ozone is such a more powerful form of an oxygen-based therapy.
I agree.
I'm like, guys, if you do ozone and a carnivore diet, it's like the perfect combination.
Yes. I've been off the carnivore diet for a couple months now. I know, shame
Get
on
back,
me.
and the holidays are approaching too, so you
And
got to be
I
careful.
feel horrible.
Oh yeah,
I'm not going to lie. I was just telling my husband that on the way to work this morning. I'm like, I've got to go back on the carnivore. I felt amazing. The energy I felt, just the health I felt. I mean, happy, healthy. I got up every day. I didn't feel like I needed to sleep all day or rest all day.
And your mental health, because I actually probably looked over a couple hundred clinical studies proving that the increased amount of carbohydrates led to depression and
I see
all
that.
the like psychosis and everything else like that. I was like,
Yes.
actually, not only increasing your meat and your animal-based fat actually has been proven to reduce all these cognitive and depression issues. But it's a lot of people, a lot of men. That's why I say no more beta males. I'm like, your testosterone's low, but you know what? What happens when you reduce your fat, especially if you reduce your animal-based fat, which is the most like high, it's good, like the best absorbed because it's straight EPA and DHA, not this plant-based crap.
Right.
Your testosterone's going to plummet. So there's a lot of people they lift and they work out, and even if they eat a lot of protein, they eat low fat. I'm like, yeah, your testosterone's like at 200, buddy. I mean, you got to boost it back up. I mean, you could take the TOT. I mean, it's going to help you temporarily, but you got to address the root problem. And the root problem is you got no fat. But yeah, once again, I think I'm very proud and honored that I can send my clients to you because I know they're going to get better. I really wish more, because technically mold litigation, it's a two-part kind of practice area of law. It's contractual law because you have a contract with the lease terms and the tenancy, okay? So it's a breach of contract when they fail to provide a habitable premises, okay? But it's also a personal injury because you get injured from the from their negligence, basically, because implied in every kind of mold litigation is a negligence claim. So it's so there's a lot of personal injury attorneys that most people go to for mold litigation. Those personal injury attorneys know, just like doctors know SHIT about nutrition. These mold litigation attorneys know SHIT about health. Okay,
Right.
Most of them, they can't even see their own genitals because they're so overweight, and they're just like they're just and they basically they say, hey, we're gonna send you to a chiropractor. We're gonna send you these doctors, these surgeons. And the same thing, they send them to like these conventional people that give them antibiotics. And I actually had clients come to me they left the former mold litigation attorney. They sent me through all their friend doctors, and I just got sicker because they just put me on a bunch of antibiotics, and it just completely wrecked my gut. And now I feel more sick. I'm like, yeah, because you actually are killing off some of the good natural microbiome in your system instead of addressing the mold. You need like a strong antifungal, anti-mycotoxin kind of like protocol. And this is why I wish more people could know about you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sending us so many people that do now know about us, Christopher Brandlin. We also added in some lymphatic.
And I do got to take advantage of
because that's amazing because, mold really just goes right to that gut amongst other things. But, as you know, it tears up your whole gut, your intestines.
Mycotoxins and fungal spores actually eat up the lining of your intestines.
Yep.
And this is what I wish most conventional doctors actually knew about it, and maybe they could start teaching it in the medical curriculum. But the problem, like I said, is that the biggest donors for all these medical institutions are pharmaceutical companies. Pfizer was one of them. Is that they fund the most money to Harvard and all these other major medical institutions. So all these doctors are like, oh, I went to Harvard. I'm like, yeah, you didn't learn anything about nutrition, and you probably know everything about every pharmaceutical on the market. That's all you know. Okay?
Right.
But you don't know how to address mold.
Right. And that's a big thing. It's super big. I did not realize until that was my journey just how big it is. Everyone has mold.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're in a humid area. So, I mean, Tampa, I had a great fun, but I spoke with some people that are like, yeah, I have to put like 2 dehumidifiers, because I always tell people, like, there's ways you can dress them all. First of all, get rid of all your carpet, okay? Because any kind of like, fabric kind of like material, even couches, get leather couches or something like that. And then if you can, the beds is the most difficult part, because the mattress absorbs the most kind of like toxins. So you need hardwood floors. You need to get like, less kind of like porous fabric. That's what I was thinking of.
Porous fabric.
And then there's also, people don't realize there's also bamboo mattresses too. Bamboo mattresses, you can get bamboo mattresses because bamboo is like naturally antifungal and it doesn't grow any mold. But the whole thing is to just dry your place out. You may want to put a UV light in your AC. I have a friend who installs HVACs, and he's known for installing UV lights because he knows about mold. He's actually the client that you guys treated too.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so he actually focused it, like he's like, yeah, I put a UV light in my HVAC, and I put it on everybody else, and it kind of does the trick, because the UV light actually is another way to, and that's why it's awesome about the EBU too. It's like killing everything.
Yes, I love that EBU. I definitely love that EBU. Well, Christopher, thank you so much for coming and joining us today, and thank you so much for all that you do. Christopher donated a Hocket ozone sauna to us since he's in between here and Nevada with his campaign. So thank you. Thank you so much. We'll get a lot of use out of that.
I'd prefer to keep it here because I'd want to see all of your patients get better. They're already getting better, but I want to see basically all the options you have. And I think it's probably perfect to do in conjunction with the EBU.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll make a little package.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today at Holtorf Medical Group with Christopher Brandlin, Dr. Christopher Brandlin, Esquire.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.